Well, another week of Creator Series drama. Who saw that coming, eh? Who saw that coming? So, for those who may have missed it, Creator Series this week ran a wildcard for no ERS. And there's been, oh my God, honestly, it might even be a new record for behind the scenes debate and drama, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that was last week. It's pretty close. There's been lots and lots of messages behind the scenes. Basically, people aren't happy. Some people aren't happy with realistic performance, but I think that's the vocal minority more than anything. And then B, people aren't happy with the wild card. It's been absolutely relentless. We also had GB dramatically quit just after the race, which I said was sort of to some extent premeditated, but clearly a bit of a final straw. We're actually going to hear from GB on this stream, or in this content, in this video, however you happen to be watching this. So stay tuned for that. But first of all, let's talk about the wild card stuff. No ERS wild card. Now, my initial reaction to this was, oh, I don't love it. I like ERS in F1. Once I thought about it a bit and tried it a bit, I thought, oh, okay, actually, I'm happy to try this for a race. But apparently most drivers hated it. It seems quite a lot of viewers are against it, but what I will say is I think viewers tend to be naturally against these sort of things. I think viewers would prefer to see a league style thing because they're cheering for their personal creator. They want them to do well. They don't want wildcards to potentially get in the way of that. But in my opinion, Creator Series, it's a content first series, right? It should be doing things to make things interesting. There's a reason that I'm in Creator Series and give up my Saturday, my precious Saturday evenings to be in Creator Series, and I don't just join a league, right? I could easily just swap. And that's because it's about content. It's about content. It's not about sweaty league racing, right? That's not the point of it. So I like the idea that races are different, that we occasionally have wildcards that mix things up and we try different things. I like it. It mixes up. It makes for an interesting YouTube title and an interesting thumbnail and an interesting video. I like it, right? I like it. That being said, and this I think comes to the core of all this drama, because for me, Creator Series is not serious, but like a competitive, fair racing series that prioritizes content, right? So if we use wildcards that are just RNG, right? That just literally doesn't matter how well you drive, you're not going to win ever because it's too RNG, right? I'd hate that, right? It should always be the best person on the day wins the race. I think it's an interesting one. I think Creator Series management in particular like to run it a very certain way, but I think this is also part of the drama we've had behind the scenes, is because Creator Series management like to run it the way they want to run it, almost dictatorship style. That's a bit too extreme, but that's the bit I've never understood. It doesn't have to be a surprise. We are all also content creators, so we know how to create good content, right? That's our jobs, a lot of us. I think it should be, we all decide. We can all vote and say, hey, look, we don't like this wildcard, or hey, why don't we do this wildcard for this track? That'd be fun, guys, wouldn't it? And we all discuss it, and we all agree. Even if we don't all agree, we all largely agree, and we all go, yeah, brilliant. The viewers will enjoy this. This will create good content. Just because we as the drivers are involved in that decision, it doesn't lessen the outcome. But that is not how Creator Series management sees it. So I do feel for them, because they're not trying to do bad wildcards. Personally, I like the wildcard, right? A lot of people didn't. They're doing their best to do the best wildcards. And it's not a case of, oh, they're just not good enough as management. It's a case of they're doing their best, but to make 20 different drivers with 20 different content styles and thousands of viewers all happy at the same time is never going to happen. It's never going to happen. So they're making a rod for their own back by making all the decisions themselves internally. And look, more specifically, right, on the wildcard, a lot of the complaints were around making the racing worse, right? Obviously, the objective of Creator Series is to make interesting racing, right? And I got into a bit of hot water saying this behind the scenes, but basically, in my opinion, the majority of people who race and drive and create content from Creator Series are F1 only creators. Those creators have chosen to be an F1 only creator, which is obviously largely me as well, not exclusively me, to race a relatively simplistic game. Okay, it's not as simple as like Mario Kart, you know what I mean? But it's not a sim, right? So they're happy to make a bit of contact here and there, right? They're happy for a bit of rubbing his racing. You know, previously everyone enjoyed the severe lack of dirty air and things like that. They basically like a bit of a simplistic racing experience. And this is my opinion on this. I am a bit more of a racing purist. I like races that are really strategic, and they may be a bit strung out because it's strategic, but I enjoy them trying to figure out the best strategy. Going, oh, when should I box, or when should I twit tire should I take? Can I catch X, Y, and Z? I like those sort of races. And what I tend to find is when we get those sort of races, I enjoy it and most of the other creators don't enjoy it because I think most creators prefer cars to be close. It's why purposeful creator series are allowed, purposeful safety cars are allowed in creator series, because they want cars close. They want to be able to swap back and forth. So I think they didn't like it because apparently DRS train was hard, right? Apparently it was hard to overtake, DRS train. I was in the second worst car. I started 16th and I won the race. Can't have been that hard to overtake. And I know I'm just one perspective, but it seems to me like everyone was just running the same strategy, all waiting for the same things to happen, all unwilling to do anything different. And then they go afterwards and then complain about the racing was being bad. But look, I can't necessarily disagree with them because the majority is the majority. But I think basically creator series, the drivers in creator series want wheel to wheel, almost non-stop action. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Let's look at what some creators saying in chat. Hold on. You absolutely had to commit to moves. Yeah, kind of. I didn't really feel like that, but I was on an alternative strategy all day long. But then so were you, Kyle, to be fair. You was also stuck, though. Your strat and the safety car was smart and what gave you the gap and won the race as deserved. Yeah, it would have. It's kind of almost a shame, actually, that I never actually at any point in the race had a comparable set of tyres to my rivals. Carl ran a similar strategy to me, but even then not exactly the same. I never actually got to compare my pace or whatever to any of my rivals because I was always on something different to them. But I was the only person in the entire field to start on hards in the first race. Vast majority started medium. Second race, 3 more people joined me, but there's still only 4 out of 20 that chose to start on hards, despite the fact that I showed how quickly you can come through. Yeah, exactly, Ben. My opinion is only one opinion, but it's not. There's a reason that I didn't have to race somebody on a similar tire race condition is because I went different on strategy. I think everyone there just wanted to run the default creator series strategy. Get the bad tires out of the way first, sit and wait for a safety car. And because everyone was sticking to that, the race ended up sucking. No, yeah, I'm very aware of that, Ben. I didn't see what it was like for everybody. Absolutely. I didn't get stuck in a DRS train at any point. And I'm not saying that's just because oh, guys, you can overtake, just do it. Because I had the second lowest drag car and I had seemingly some of the lowest wings. Now, the wings was a choice. I ran 6-0 wings, right? It seems to be I was one of the lowest on wings. I think there's only one person I'm aware of that had lower wings than me, and that was Scott in the Red Bull, who cheated anyway. But, you know, I was in the second lowest drag car. There was 3 cars with either the same drag or less drag than me in terms of car performance. That's another slight mitigating factor. But the main thing was strategy. It wasn't hard for me to overtake because I was on different tyres. Should we get GB on to discuss? Because GB ended the race by saying that he is, that's it. He doesn't want to race full-time in Creator Series anymore. He did say full-time, not never again. Which says to me he'll be reserving. But we know he's already missed 2 races this season. He obviously didn't enjoy the race. I thought it was just to do realistic cars because the chat was saying he mentioned something about that. But it sounds like there's a bit more to it than that. So let's go find out from GB what's what. Let's hope he's around. I'm gonna call him. Ding dong. Ding dong. There he is. Hello. Hello. I'm good, thank you. How are you? You actually got COVID? Anyway, you a bit of a drama queen after the race on Saturday, weren't you?
Yeah, I heard what you summarized just said on stream, and I was quite clear to point out that like it wasn't emotional kind of knee-jerk reaction. I really didn't enjoy the race, obviously, as did many others. But I think the best way I can sum it up, and this is something I've thought for a while, and actually, I don't know if it was season 10, Alex, but the Austria doubleheader, the one where I won the reverse race and we had the normal one, that one. That weekend was the first time I said I'm not feeling too great about Creator Series, and
really,
it was going back a while, and I was very much on the fence. I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna quit or anything back then, obviously not. But I was starting to question things. And then we had the whole like realistic performance versus equal debate, and realistic performance is a big reason why I am stepping down as well. But I think, in a nutshell, to summarize easily, I can't really trust that Creator Series is going to produce the best content for me these days versus something else that I could do. And that's not something which I thought this weekend or last weekend, but the difference maker now is that, and you summed this up really well at the start of the stream, I no longer trust that the series, the decisions being made are also going in the right direction to fix that for me. And we do have to be selfish as creators as well, because that's what we're here to do, is make content, and we have to question whether that is going to be the best thing for us moving forward. So yeah, I had to make that hard decision. And I mean, I've been very vocal in the private chats and with trying to help improve things and stuff, as you have and many others. And I just feel like we're at a point where I personally feel like majority driver votes and things that we agree on are not even being listened to and reacted on. And for me, it's not going in the right direction. So it's the right time.
So I just want to go back to, you mentioned the first inkling of this decision was the double header in Austria. That's really interesting, because I really enjoyed that race. I thought that was really good for content. I thought it was a really good decision, and I really enjoyed it. But then again, I've also been an advocate in the past for replacing the single 100% distance race with 250s, and obviously that was quite close to that. So maybe I was swayed by that. But I really enjoyed that, and I thought the content and stuff was really good from that. And yet you didn't like that. What was it about that you felt like you weren't enjoying?
I've clearly got a bit of a short-term memory because I can't remember every detail from that doubleheader. But
tell what happened on lap 20 of race 2, GB. I want to know.
On lap 20 of race. Anyway, the race that I won, the reverse race, I was actually, I think, very similar to your win last weekend at Mexico, where I won it on strategy. And yeah, I think me and you were the only ones to do the one-stop that race, and that's how it played out. But I had nothing really happen in the race apart from, I think that was the race that I killed Razin on the pit exit.
Yeah, it was,
apart from that, I didn't really have anything going on. And I remember winning that race, and it was a good feeling. Like, it was cool to get it on strategy. But I knew that overall for content, like, it wasn't too much I could really do with that. I don't know. I don't want to specify that race because, like I said, that I'm not thinking, I want to leave the series because of that race. It's just, things have played out over time, and I think the change to realistic as well, and losing some really cool factors we had with set teams and structure and teammates and cool camaraderie around that as well, which promoted extra stuff in the VC, like lots of other things that tied into the previous format, which we've now changed, that I'm personally not a fan of. I've missed 2 rounds. I've watched different POVs as a viewer while I've been doing other things in recent weeks, and I've personally not thought it was an amazing spectacle either. And like I said, the camel that broke the straws, the straw that broke the camel's back, that's the one. Camel that broke the straw's back was literally the recent vote which got ignored about, I don't know if you've said this to chat, but basically the majority of drivers, I want to say 12 drivers voted for this and 1 or 2 against it, for including DNFs in average points. And it was immediately disregarded and ignored. And despite lots of good reasons given for including them, that has not happened. And that's not, look, obviously that's not a make or break for me leaving the series, but you get my point, right? This kind of just adds up to what you said at the start, that I think drivers need to dictate where the series is going. We're not just drivers, we're creators. All of our audience is watching. So yeah, I don't believe in that anymore. So
yeah, so it goes back to as you said, what I said at the start of the stream, and it's harsh for any management listening, but it is run a little bit like a dictatorship. And I don't think necessarily that just because a vote gets a majority, it has to be introduced necessarily. But I do think that should be a very strong indication to the management that this is the direction the drivers would like to go. And at the end of the day, as you said, the drivers are content creators. It's a content focused series, and the drivers are content creators. So they're voting with content in mind for the most part. So I think what's weird, and this will be frustrating for management, because I feel like management, they're not EA level of communication. They do communicate with us. There is a bit of back and forth, but I still feel like there's that disconnect there, whereby we're all discussing stuff and voting on stuff as drivers, and the management do to some extent get involved in the discussion, but for the most part, at the end of it, they then just make a decision, and the vote that we held and even the discussions we've had only play a small part of that. So to give an example of the DNF thing you mentioned about including DNFs within the average points to decide the realistic cars, we all voted. We voted yes. There was a little bit of pushback from management in regard to why that. Not that it's not possible, but why they maybe disagree a little bit. And then in the end, they just said, "Oh, we discussed it and we decided against it," and that was all they really did. So it's like. It's an us and them type situation, really, isn't it? They have these sort of internal discussions in their private chats and make the decision, but it doesn't have to be that way. We could all run it together. We could all run it a bit more like I mentioned, running it like a committee. Not democracy. I was going to say democracy, but then that implies we vote somebody to do X, Y, and Z. I think more of a committee so that we all openly discuss it and all openly decide, okay, we've heard the cons that we may not have initially thought of to include in DNFs, and actually we still think DNFs should be included. Whereas they don't do that. They say, oh, but they haven't seen these cons, let's do this. So yeah, I mean, so it does sound like for you, it's a bit more of a, I was going to say disdain, that's a too strong a word, but for the way management is, I guess, running things, the direction that Create Series is going under the management.
I think what's sad for me is that at this stage of the game cycle where things have obviously fully calmed down and we're kind of just, things are trundling along. I'm loving driving. I love it. I want to make content. I believe it or not, I still want to do my team, which I know a lot of people have fallen out of love with. Like I want to do lots of different stuff. I want to do creator collabs. I want to do all this. Like Creator Series for me is perfect. I love it. I always have been here since day one, as you know. So it's a sad decision to make, but it comes down to, I want to race, bro. I want to have less gimmicks. I don't want wildcards with realistic performance. And like, I get why we're doing certain things. Obviously, it makes sense. I'm on the same page as everyone else. And I appreciate that what I want for racing might be subjectively different to other creators. That's fine. But I don't feel like I can go racing anymore. I feel like there's too many gimmicky things thrown in, and I feel like I could do a better job myself with my own content at this stage. So look, I'm not ruling out a return in the future should the series shift and take a different direction. And obviously I'll be watching on and I don't want anything to change there from my perspective of, everything I do with creators. But that's why I think it's the right decision. And it probably looked very emotional, me posting it straight after the race. But it was kind of the right time with how that unfolded and everything. So
been a long time coming rather than a knee jerk necessarily. I want to talk about a maybe more controversial viewpoint. You know me, controversial viewpoint incoming.
Yes.
It's on the realistic cars, right? So you said you don't enjoy it as much with realistic cars. You know that I was a big advocate for realistic cars before they came in. I'm still a big advocate. I think they have improved Creator Series. Clearly you disagree, and I know a handful of others also disagree. Now, there was kind of a vote for this at the time, but obviously everyone was very, very split. And I literally said before they made any decisions, I said, I think this is the sort of change that Creator Series would have to decide themselves, and management have to decide themselves and kind of push through, because we're never going to get an agreement on something like this, because naturally some people are going to be against it, possibly for selfish reasons. Some people are going to be against it for content reasons. Some people are going to be for it for content reasons or for it for selfish reasons. It was one of those that was just almost too big to be decided by individual votes and creators and stuff. So anyway, fast forward, they decided to do it. But to me, one of the things I said at the time was, because one of the issues at the time is people like you, signed by Aston Martin, and obviously Fabio, signed by Ferrari, is that they can no longer run their own cars necessarily, and that's obviously bad for their relationships with their teams. And I sort of said, but I don't think Creator Series should be held back by private agreements that people have got with teams. If we can get you in the right cars, sure, but we shouldn't decide all of Creator Series because two drivers have signed a contract. So that was one of the things. But I think if Creator Series have decided that this is the way to go, and if genuinely the viewers as a whole are enjoying it, you're always going to get some people that aren't, and the numbers are up, more people are watching for longer, the clips are better, etc., etc., etc. Right? On average, it's better, even if maybe for a couple people, you are one of the people biggest hit, at least average points wise this season by realistic. Karim is even harder hit. Karim has been absolutely in the mud with realistic cars.
Yeah.
I guess my point is, if Creator Series has decided this is the right way to go, would they even be remotely bothered that certain people are leaving? Should it be alarm bells that you decide to leave and that Karim decides to leave? Because maybe, and I'm gonna hand over to you in a second, but I'm just gonna put theoretical words in your mouth and Karim's mouth. if you and Karim get content from being in the lead, it being, fighting at the front, and you're no longer fighting the front, it makes sense for you to leave for your own content. However, if Creator Series as a whole is better, maybe it's then better if you guys decide that you're going to leave, and then we replace you with other people that might enjoy realistic more. At the end of the day, they've shifted what Creator Series is, so we can't be surprised when certain people don't want to continue with Creator Series because it's now this new thing. What are your thoughts on that? It
was quite a detailed question, so...
it wasn't even really a question. It was just a controversial talking point I've thrown at you. That's what it was.
I think you're right. I think ultimately the goalposts have been massively shifted, and obviously that's going to suit the people that were complaining last season and wanting this massive shift, and it's not going to suit the people that didn't. And obviously I'm in the latter. I pulled up some notes because on the 11th of August, I wrote down a few points that were, again, for chat and everyone listening, the context here is that while this realistic versus equal debate was going on, which I know Alex covered at the time, and there was lots publicized about that, there were loads and loads of points for and against, and it was a massive, massive contentious talking point. And I wrote down a few points of mine because I wanted to see how well they would age or how badly they would age. And I wrote, losing teammates in Constructors Championship adds a nice touch to Creator Series, working with your teammate and having another angle with your content. I think that's aged quite well. For me personally, I feel like it's a massive miss. I think the series is missing that as well from watching it from the outside. I even wrote, and this is perfect timing, format change, realistic performance, and all the time with no wildcards. Wildcard and realistic performance, artificial and gimmicky. Potential no wildcard at all equals, and possibly a bit stale. Anyway, that has proven to be the case with Mexico. It was too much. That wildcard on top of realistic was too much. Also, put different cars every week will never be fair. A faster driver will always be in a better car than others. Makes championship and race results artificial, which is subjective whether you agree with that or not. But again, for me, like the Baku win was great because I knew I was in the slowest car, but otherwise Anyway,
I don't think, just very quickly on that little bit, I don't think we've had any of that. There hasn't been any runaway winners. We almost had that with Concept 7 in Mexico, funnily enough, in the McLaren, but then I was able to overcome him in a Haas. So we actually haven't had any runaway winners, but I think that we will probably get one at some point. I mean, Karim's almost in a Ferrari, so there could be a day where he just turns up and dominates.
I guess ignoring you at Mexico because you were the anomaly on a different strat. Concept kind of did run away with it. It was done. I think I was the one behind him. Yes, I was on used tires, of course, but it was the car was way too quick to even get close to. But anyway, that's a minor point. I think for me, I don't even think it's close. I think the series has lost more than it is gained because I completely agree. We've had some great talking points. We had that Chappers poll at Baku. We had Vince's win at Zandvoort, which was awesome. I was pumped for that. We have had good moments. I don't think we've gained more from realistic though than what we've taken out of Creator Series from switching from equal. And another closing point I wanted to make on this, and I really tried to hammer this home last season when this debate was happening. I urge everyone to go back to season 10, which was complained about in certain races. We did have a couple stale races for sure. We had some bad ones, but the season as a whole and how it all unfolded and ended, I didn't think it was bad content at all. I thought the series got good stuff out of it. I'm not talking from a selfish personal standpoint. I tried to look at everyone's the broadcast POV and everything. I think we had some good races. I think it was not the failure and doom and gloom that was kind of being painted by management. And I think the fact that drivers chose to leave in season 10 forced this kind of knee-jerk forced reaction to change the entire format. So I tried to push this at the time. I thought season 10 was still a decent season. For sure, it could have been better, but I think we should be having conversations now. Or you should really, because I'm now stepping down. But the conversation for Creator Series now needs to be get the drivers involved, get the creators involved, and for me, I would put it back on equal. Not midway through the season, but moving forwards, I would put it back on equal, and I would look at ways to enhance the races outside of realistic performance. I do just want to say, because I know Meraki will appreciate me mentioning this, I completely agree with this point. 14 drivers voted for having realistic performance for, I think, 2 or 3, let's just say 3 rounds of a season and the rest on equal. 2 drivers voted against it, and that was ignored, and that was last season. And another example.
That comes to the heart of what I said a little bit earlier, how some decisions I do think management just has to decide, but they do it more than they should. But there's some things, because that's a great example of, I probably voted yes for that because I'd rather have that than nothing. But that's such a specific thing. Do you see what I mean? If there was a poll between all equal, 2 races realistic, and all realistic, that would have been much more interesting rather than such a binary yes/no on this specific idea. Because I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'd rather that than no equal, but I would have voted all realistic, if that makes sense. So that's where the vote situation does get a little bit messy for sure. Another thing I found interesting though was when they initially, and I don't think they made this public necessarily, when they initially announced it all, they were going to do an extra day of Creator Series. So they said, all right, let's do every Tuesday night, we're going to do a realistic performance Creator Series championship that's separate from the main one, which they ended up obviously bidding that and doing it as for the main thing anyway. What I found interesting though was that most of the people who were against it, I think this includes UGB, signed up for that, which to me didn't really make any sense. Were you one of the ones that signed up for that?
I don't think so. Wasn't it on a weekday?
Yeah, Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday evening. Yeah.
Oh, I can't remember then. I can't remember, but for me, I would have seen that as well. If it's another, if it's separate to the main series and it's another evening of content, why would I not sign up for it with other creators? Because for me, I want to drive with other creators. So I would if I did sign up to it, my mindset would have been, well, it's extra content on top of that. I would not want it to replace what is already on the Saturday. So, but okay. I mean, that would have opened a whole different can of worms, right? There's so much more logistics involved to doing 2 series.
Yeah, there's the whole conversation there. But Scotty Designs in chat actually says that you didn't sign up, but you were the one of the few that didn't. But I know most people who were against moving to realistic performance did sign up for that. And I was very surprised at that. I was like, why are you against it, yet you're also signing up for this thing? And I know it's a different day and it's extra rather than instead of. I get all that, but I was still surprised the amount of people that seemed to be keen to sign up despite being very against that. I found that very strange. But anyway, I feel like we're largely in agreement. I think there's definitely some detailed disagreements there. Like, I like realistic performance. You clearly don't. I think we're mostly on the same viewpoint on wildcards, that they're a bit overdone. But in particular, I think we're in agreement on the management situation, how Creator Series is run, which is quite almost dictatorship like. There's too strong a term, but it's almost like that, and we feel a little bit ignored, I suppose. Is that a fair conclusion?
I would say that's a pretty good conclusion. I think if the series wants to make a bit of a revival now and come back stronger and evolve into something that we love driving, the majority do. I think the drivers and creators need to be involved in the format decision making moving forwards. We have a voting channel, bro. Like we set this up after a long time of pushing, like, I don't even know, like a couple years ago or something. Like, this is going back a long time. Like, we have that there. We can get people's feedback, act on it, do something with it. Don't ignore it.
And just before you go, one more thing. If you were to become the Creator Series dictator and decide all of the rules and all of the format, and you'd have it exactly how you personally think Creator Series should be, what format would we be looking at in that case?
That's a very good question. It'll be on equal performance for sure. But I would possibly, you put me on the spot here, so this is something which I think with multiple creators' input could map out. But to not give a political answer, I would lay out a calendar where I would say, right, this is equal performance. We're maybe going to have realistic on X weekends and set those in stone, so we know what to expect. We keep the mystery races because I love that. We can then talk about wildcards and have more flexibility around what we can add into the series on equal. But yeah, predominantly it would be an equal calendar again with set realistic weekends and again. Then a wider discussion around what we do on those equal performance weekends. Sometimes we leave it. Yeah.
To be honest, it sounds like you wouldn't change much. You'd still have some realistic performance races. You'd still have some wildcards. You didn't mention race distance, so I assume you still have 100% race distances with probably short qualifying. So you wouldn't actually change that much, really. Is that right?
Well, again, like doing like one double header a season, I think was kind of cool. Like there's a lot of stuff I've really loved. It's Creator Series it's not like it's it's in flames for me right now. And that's why it's a sad, difficult decision to make, because for me, it's as simple as just saying that I don't trust that it can no longer produce good content for me week in, week out. And obviously I have to make that, it's a business, right? I have to make that decision. So, yeah.
Do you know what's really interesting is what you're saying there, with that it's just basically not good enough content for you anymore, is exactly the reason that I chose to not sign up for a full-time driver season 2 of Creator Series iRacing. Because they basically, I didn't like the way they did certain things in season 1. Season 2, they actually fixed a lot of that, but then in doing that, they also moved to F4 cars only every round. And just like a fairly normal calendar. There was no crazy, and I just thought, but this is just basically iRacing F4. Like, if I want to just do iRacing F4, I can just go do that. The only difference was there was some creators there, and it was manual safety cars. That's the only real difference over real iRacing. So I thought, well, that's just not interesting enough content for me. For me, I want them to go, I've ran Formula Multiclass in the past. I can't recall if you've been in any of those, but on iRacing, that was always great fun, having the big variety of Formula cars on track, or go crazy on the track choices. Do place the F4 would never race and go really rogue on it. Or even to some extent, like Wildcards, something along those lines, even if it's not a different Wildcards every round, just some sort of crazy idea that makes it interesting. Even like staggered starts or something. I don't know, that's a bit too crazy, but something that would mean that it's properly unique, and that if I'm browsing YouTube, because YouTube is my personal priority, if I'm browsing YouTube, I would think, oh, that sounds wild and interesting, I want to click that. Whereas if it's just, oh, hey, another round of F4 on a fairly normal track with fairly normal rule set, well, it's the same as every other video.
To add a couple points to this, because your point here is that we want it to be exciting and different, and that's what Creator Series is. It should, whether you want to argue if it is or isn't a league, it's a championship where there's lots of fun variables thrown together with unique personalities and unique scenarios, and that's absolutely what I want. That same thing too. One thing I forgot to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think putting on equal performance with fixed setups, I think balances the grid even more than realistic does. It certainly must be close. And this goes back to my point of this is why I would have an equal calendar. I'd introduce some realistic races. I'm happy with that, like a few, maybe. Let's say it's a 12 race season. I'd have maybe 3 races scattered, start, middle, end for realistic. I would have fixed setups in there at some point. I would spice things up to just give lots of different scenarios, because I'm already bored of watching week in, week out. We're talking about car performance, and that is not going to change. I know you hate that too, Alex. It's not going to change. People are always going to talk about their cars, and then they should do, because that is the deciding factor of their pace. It's already gotten stale, and keep it spicy. Exactly what you just said for iRacing. Keep it fresh. And that's the way I would go.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, GB. Appreciate the different opinion. It's always good to get you on, especially with the unfortunate decision that you've made to step down. But you're not going to be never racing, right? You're still going to appear in some races, right? Tell me you are.
I mean, for now, I've stepped down for good, but we'll see. I'm obviously always I'm there in the Discord. I'm going to be making the same content as always, so I'm still around. I will keep an eye on it, and if I really, really hope that things change for the better. And obviously, if I see that, then maybe I'll reapply again. So we'll see.
Okay, interesting. All right, well, we'll see. Well, anyway, GB, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Appreciate your opinions, your POV, and hope to see you on track soon.
Yeah, cheers, man. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, bye. Again, like GB, I wouldn't change. I put out a few crazy ideas there, but in general, I wouldn't change that much compared to what it is now, really. I just think 250% distance races suits Creator Series a lot more, and I'm very adamantly for that, because although Creator Series has always been 100% distance race and stuff, I get all that, but let's not forget, the Creator Series management, as they are right now, wanted to run a 3-lap race at the end of that race when we had a lobby crash, which is insane. What is the point in running 71 laps plus the 19 when the lobby crashed of a Mexican Grand Prix if the entire thing, if none of that is going to matter really, and the entire thing is decided over a 3-lap race? That's the fact that the management wanted to do that, to me, perfectly shows the disconnect there of content creators, the drivers, and the management. Because to some extent it makes sense, right? They go, well, it'll be good content. It'll be a 3-lap race. Brilliant. It's exciting. But it also makes the other 100% pointless, and that's the bit they don't seem to get. is that if we want to run 100% distance races, there needs to be a point to those 100% distance races. For me, when you get 5 safety cars every race, 100% distance races don't mean as much because it's not strategic. Run 250s, and then things matter less. You're effectively dividing your time up so that all the pressure isn't on those last few laps of 100% distance race, which if there's no safety cars or no restarts, there isn't pressure on that because you just had 60 laps of build-up of getting your strategy right, getting your tyre choice right. And there may be a climactic finish, but it's not all decided by RNG in the last couple of laps as it would have been with a 3-lap race. Yeah, I don't like lobby resets. That's a big drawback of the 2 lobbies is the lobby resets. I really don't like those, to be fair. So Tom97 saying realistic performance plus full quali plus 100% distance race, no wildcards because that's what realistic performance does, which I do agree with. I'm not. I like wildcards on the face of it. In reality, they very often don't work. But if you go equal, then Tom thinks short quali, reverse championship sprint, and 50% distance race. Again, the problem with that is you then have to do you have to do a lobby restart. It's just annoying, isn't it? 25% distance reverse grid and then 50% normal. Yeah, that'd be good. Again, it requires a lobby restart, doesn't it? But Ben says if they run 50% races, then create a series just like every other league. No, but that's why I like 2 50%s, because it is still a bit different. I'm not even necessarily against 100%. I just don't like the fact that we run 100% distance races and they're more than happy for that entire 100% distance race to be decided by a completely separate 3-lap sprint. That, to me, shows the mentality that means 100% distance races are pointless. The being said, personally on my side watching Creator Series, I'm not a fan of doing multiple seasons each year. 11 seasons in the time of, 3 or 4 years. Everyone gets burnt out so quickly because the same thing keeps happening. You try to make a season good, but not much change happens because it slowly goes back to original stale content. 1 season each F1 game, space out the races. I think this goes back to what is Creator Series, doesn't it? Because you've just come up with a whole new idea of what Creator Series could be, and I like it. I don't think the 100% distance race is what should make Creator Series different. I think right now it probably is, but I don't think it should be because that's not unique. It's just running a slightly different option in the game. Do you know what I mean? Creator Series should be different in that the wildcards is really what should make Creator Series different and interesting. Your format, for me, you're right, would be key. Realistic performance, one-shot quality, 100% distance race. I agree, but for me, I would also ban safety cars within that. I don't actually think safety cars should be banned in Creator Series because I think I like it being about strategy. The only way to guarantee it's about strategy is to get rid of safety cars or at least reduce them. Mix that with F2. I'm not actually against F2, Adam. I don't think it should be every week, but I like your league that you do half F2, half F1. I think that's quite interesting. So there we go then. Creator Series wouldn't be Creator Series without a bit of drama, would it? But let me know what you think down in the comments, both of realistic performance and the wildcards, and maybe the sort of thoughts on management, thoughts on what GB said. And don't forget to subscribe as well because we've got the clip book coming very, very soon. Catch you then.